the early morning of July 12, 1997, Ethan and Claire Morrison packed their small Jeep with camping gear, cameras, and enough supplies for a 2-day hike in Rocky Mountain National Park. The air was crisp and the sky unusually clear for summer, giving the couple a false sense of calm. They joked and laughed as they drove up the winding mountain roads, stopping occasionally to take photos of the sprawling valleys below. Friends had warned them about the unpredictable weather, especially in the higher elevations, but Ethan, confident in his experience, reassured Claire that they would be fine. It was supposed to be a simple anniversary getaway, a chance to escape the world and immerse themselves in nature. The couple arrived at the trailhead near Emerald Lake around mid-morning, parking their Jeep alongside a few other hikers' vehicles. They carefully strapped on their backpacks, double-checked their water and snacks, and began the ascent along a narrow, winding trail lined with pine trees. The forest was quiet except for the occasional bird call, and the only sounds were their footsteps crunching over fallen pine needles and gravel. Claire paused frequently to photograph wildflowers and distant peaks, while Ethan scanned the horizon, excited to reach a vantage point he had read about in a hiking guide. As they climbed higher, the temperature dropped unexpectedly, and dark clouds began to gather in the distance. A subtle wind picked up, rustling the trees and carrying with it a faint smell of rain. Neither Ethan nor Claire seemed overly concerned at first. They had hiked in unpredictable conditions before. But the weather shifted quickly, the clouds thickening and shadows stretching across the trail, creating an eerie sense of isolation. The once familiar path seemed to twist unnaturally, and the couple noticed that some of the markers they had been following were partially obscured by fallen branches. Around early afternoon, a park ranger passing by the trailhead spotted the couple briefly as they paused on a ledge overlooking a small alpine lake. Ethan waved cheerfully, holding Claire's hand, and they smiled for a quick photograph that the ranger would later describe as the last known image of them together. Shortly after, the storm arrived suddenly, a torrential downpour that sent water streaming down the rocky trail. Visibility dropped, and the couple's bright jackets became mere flashes in the grey haze. Their cautious steps slowed, but neither turned back, determined to reach the shelter of a familiar campsite further ahead. Within minutes, the path grew slick and treacherous. Loose rocks and fallen trees forced them to navigate carefully, but the sound of rushing water drowned out all other noise. Hail began to fall in small pellets, bouncing off rocks and tree branches, and lightning flashed across the peaks, illuminating the couple's figures in stark relief against the darkening forest. Then, as quickly as they had entered the storm, Ethan and Claire vanished from sight. Their footprints, once clearly defined, disappeared near a rocky outcrop, leaving rescuers and family with nothing but questions and an ominous sense that the mountains had claimed them in a single, silent moment. As soon as the Morrison family realized Ethan and Claire had not returned from the hike, panic set in. They reported the couple missing to the Rocky Mountain National Park authorities, who immediately initiated search and rescue operations. Helicopters buzzed overhead, their spotlights cutting through the thickening clouds, while teams of rangers and volunteers fanned out across the rugged terrain. Every trail, every cliffside, and every forest clearing was meticulously combed. But despite the extensive manpower, there was no trace of the couple, no footprints beyond the outcrop, no abandoned gear, nothing that could explain their sudden disappearance. Search parties discovered the couple's last known belongings scattered near the Emerald Lake trailhead: a partially filled water bottle, a camera still clutched in Claire's hand, and Ethan's hiking poles leaning against a tree. It was as if the two had simply vanished into thin air. Rangers followed faint trails leading deeper into the park, but the paths became treacherous and ended abruptly near a steep ravine. Local guides whispered that the Morrisons' disappearance seemed almost supernatural, a vanishing act that defied logic even for seasoned searchers who had traversed these trails hundreds of times. The initial search effort lasted nearly 2 weeks, with volunteers hiking miles into the wilderness, rappelling down cliffs, and scanning lakeshores for any sign of the couple. Drones were deployed to map inaccessible areas, but even their cameras failed to capture anything more than empty trees and mist-shrouded valleys. Each day brought a sinking feeling among the rescue teams. Families and onlookers gathered at the trailhead, lighting candles and leaving notes for the missing couple, hoping that somehow they would find their way back. But as days turned into weeks, hope waned, and whispers of tragedy began to spread. Amid the mounting tension, rumors began to circulate among locals and park visitors. Some claimed to have heard distant screams echoing through the mountains. Others swore they had seen fleeting shadows darting among the trees, too quick and silent to be human. Park rangers remained cautious in their statements, emphasizing that these were unverified accounts, Yet the eerie reports only fueled public fascination. Every mysterious footprint or broken branch became a potential clue, yet nothing concrete emerged. It was as if the forest itself had swallowed Ethan and Claire without leaving a trace. By the end of the first month, the search had scaled down but never stopped entirely. The disappearance became a haunting topic of conversation in nearby towns, and the story reached national media outlets. Experts debated possible scenarios: wild animal attacks, accidental falls, or even foul play. Each theory seemed plausible and impossible at the same time. Despite advanced technology and tireless human effort, the park remained silent, keeping its secrets well hidden in the shadows of towering pines and jagged peaks. The Morrison case became not just a missing persons investigation, but a chilling mystery that would linger for decades. After weeks of fruitless searching, Ethan and Claire Morrison were officially declared missing, and the news sent shockwaves through their families and the small towns surrounding Rocky Mountain National Park. Friends and relatives struggled to understand how two experienced hikers could vanish without a trace. Claire's parents organized memorial vigils near the Emerald Lake trailhead, placing candles, flowers, and handwritten notes along the path where their daughter was last seen. Each item served as both a tribute and a silent plea for answers that never came. Meanwhile, Ethan's brother, David, refused to give up hope. He joined yearly search expeditions, hiking into dangerous and rarely explored sections of the park in the faint hope of finding even a clue. Locals admired his dedication, but whispered concerns began to surface about the obsession that consumed him. David kept meticulous journals of sightings, unusual occurrences, and strange animal tracks, convinced that something, or someone, was hiding the truth. Yet each year, the wilderness offered nothing but the same unbroken silence and shadows. The media coverage of the disappearance faded over time, but the story never truly left the community's consciousness. Hikers and campers passing through the park would occasionally report seeing figures in the distance, often described as a man and woman in bright jackets, standing silently near ridges or peeking from behind trees. Some claimed to hear laughter or voices carried by the wind, though these accounts were impossible to verify. Over time, these sightings became part of local lore, turning Ethan and Claire into ghostly figures whose fate was as mysterious as the mountains themselves. Life for the families continued under a cloud of uncertainty. Claire's parents moved cautiously about their daily lives, always checking the news for updates on missing persons or new discoveries in the park. David kept a small shrine at home, filled with photos of Ethan and Claire, maps, and personal items he had collected during searches. Every new hiker or camper became a potential source of information, and each tip sparked a glimmer of hope that would fade just as quickly as it appeared. The sense of loss was compounded by the eerie thought that the mountains, which had once seemed beautiful and inviting, had become a place of mystery and danger. Despite the passage of years, the story of Ethan and Claire continued to haunt the local population. Trail guides, park rangers, and even casual visitors spoke in hushed tones about the couple, often warning newcomers to tread carefully in the area. The forest itself seemed to carry a presence, a quiet reminder that the Morrison case was far from ordinary. For many, the disappearance became a lesson in respect for nature's unpredictability, and a chilling reminder that even the most experienced hikers were not immune to the mountain's secrets. 4 years after Ethan and Claire Morrison vanished, in the summer of 2001, hikers stumbled upon something strange along a rarely visited side trail of Emerald Lake. Partially hidden under a thick layer of moss and fallen branches was a torn backpack, worn and faded by years of exposure to the elements. Nearby, a single hiking boot lay abandoned, its laces frayed and stiff. When authorities examined the items, DNA tests confirmed they belonged to Ethan, shocking both the park rangers and the families. It was the first tangible evidence that the couple had actually ventured deeper into the mountains, and perhaps encountered something far more sinister than anyone had imagined. The location of the discovery puzzled investigators. The backpack and boot were found several miles off the main trail, tucked in a rocky crevice that required careful climbing to reach. How Ethan and Claire had ended up in such an isolated spot remained a mystery. Forensic teams scoured the surrounding area, but no additional clothing, personal items, or footprints were located. The scene seemed almost deliberately staged, as if someone, or something, had carefully removed all other evidence, leaving behind only a fragment of the couple's belongings. This fueled speculation of foul play, raising questions that had haunted the families for years. Locals and hikers began to share stories about the side trail where the items were found. Many claimed that the air there felt unnaturally cold, even on hot summer days, and some reported strange sounds, like whispering voices or the snapping of twigs without any visible cause. One hiker even recounted seeing a flash of movement among the trees, bright jackets glinting in the sunlight, before vanishing as quickly as it appeared. While skeptics dismissed these reports as imagination or echoes in the forest, they added an unsettling layer to the mystery. The mountains seemed alive, guarding the truth about what had happened to Ethan and Claire. Authorities expanded the investigation after the discovery, interviewing park staff, local hikers, and guides familiar with the area. A few people reported encountering unusual marks on trees and rocks, which some thought were symbols or warnings. Wildlife experts insisted they were natural, but searchers were convinced they were signs pointing to something hidden. The eerie nature of the findings reignited public interest, drawing amateur sleuths and thrill-seekers hoping to uncover the truth. Each expedition into the area returned with stories of strange terrain, hidden crevices, and a sense that someone, or something, was always watching. The mysterious discovery also fueled countless theories about what might have happened. Some suggested that Ethan and Claire had survived for a short time, wandering off the main trail and hiding to escape danger, only to succumb to the unforgiving wilderness. Others speculated about the possibility of human intervention, an abduction or secret concealment. Paranormal enthusiasts even claimed the couple might have been drawn into a dimensional anomaly or a supernatural pocket of the mountains. The abandoned backpack and boot became the centerpiece of speculation, a silent clue hinting at an explanation that remained frustratingly out of reach. It was the summer of 2022 when a group of hikers decided to explore a less-traveled section of the Rocky Mountains near Emerald Lake, following a path that had been mostly ignored for decades. As they navigated the steep cliffs and narrow ledges, one of them noticed a small bundle tucked into a rocky crevice, partially hidden by moss and fallen pine needles. At first, they thought it was a discarded backpack, but upon closer inspection, they realized it was clothing, faded, but remarkably well-preserved despite being exposed to the elements for 25 years. The sight immediately sent chills through the group. Instinctively, they recognized the area as the same location where Ethan and Claire Morrison had vanished so long ago. Authorities were notified, and forensic teams were dispatched to collect and examine the clothing. The items included Ethan's worn hiking jacket, Claire's scarf, and a pair of hiking boots, all showing minimal signs of deterioration. DNA testing confirmed without a doubt that the clothing belonged to the couple. Yet despite this confirmation, the most pressing question remained unanswered. Where were Ethan and Claire themselves? The sudden reappearance of their clothing, decades after their disappearance, reignited the mystery and suggested that the couple had somehow come into contact with something beyond ordinary comprehension. The location of the discovery added another layer of intrigue. The rocky crevice was nearly impossible to reach, requiring careful climbing over jagged stones and slippery moss. It was a place few had ever seen, and yet the clothes were carefully positioned, almost as if someone, or something, had deliberately placed them there. Investigators combed the surrounding area for further clues but found nothing else. No footprints, no personal items, no signs of a struggle. The deliberate nature of the placement suggested to some that this was more than an accident. It was a message, a silent clue left behind by the unknown forces that had taken the couple. Local residents and park visitors were stunned by the news. Social media exploded with theories, and news outlets ran stories speculating about the Morrisons' fate. Some suggested that the couple might have survived for a short time in isolation and then vanished into the wilderness, while others leaned toward more sinister explanations, such as abduction, secret hideouts, or even paranormal involvement. Hikers reported feeling uneasy near the crevice, with some claiming to hear faint whispers or catch glimpses of figures in the distance, reinforcing the eerie reputation of the area. The discovery of the clothing reignited not only public interest but also long-dormant fear. The mountains, which had silently held the couple's fate for a quarter of a century, seemed more mysterious than ever. People began to avoid the area, wary of the strange energy that surrounded the crevice. For families, locals, and the nation, the Morrison case had shifted from a tragic disappearance to a chilling, unsolved mystery. The clothes were a haunting reminder that while the mountains could keep secrets for decades, the story of Ethan and Claire was far from over, and the truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. The discovery of Ethan and Claire Morrison's clothing in 2022 sent shockwaves through both the local community and the national media. Immediately, speculation ran rampant, with experts, enthusiasts, and amateurs alike proposing theories to explain the unthinkable. Some insisted the couple had been victims of foul play, suggesting that someone familiar with the rugged terrain had lured them away or trapped them in a hidden location. Others argued that the sudden reappearance of the clothing perfectly preserved after 25 years, could not be explained by natural processes alone, sparking rumors of paranormal or supernatural involvement in the disappearance. Online forums and social media were flooded with theories, ranging from the plausible to the outright bizarre. One popular theory suggested that Ethan and Claire had stumbled upon a hidden cave or underground passage unknown to park maps, where they might have sought shelter from the storm that had swallowed them decades earlier. Another group of theorists claimed the couple had been abducted by someone living off the grid in the mountains, a recluse who meticulously avoided detection. The precise placement of the clothes in a remote crevice became a focal point for those convinced that the story involved human interference rather than natural causes. Paranormal enthusiasts took the mystery even further. They pointed to decades of alleged ghost sightings in the park, the strange whispers reported by hikers, and the unusual preservation of the clothing as evidence of something beyond human understanding. Some claimed that the couple had been drawn into a dimensional anomaly or a supernatural pocket within the Rockies, a hidden space where time and reality did not behave normally. These theories, while far-fetched, captured the imagination of the public and added a spine-chilling element to the already mysterious case. Local guides and park rangers weighed in cautiously, recounting old stories of disappearances in the area that were never solved. Several veterans of the park mentioned seeing shadows, strange lights, and unidentifiable shapes while patrolling the trails, lending an eerie credibility to the paranormal speculation. Others insisted on more logical explanations, citing treacherous cliffs, wildlife attacks, and the unpredictable weather of the Rockies as sufficient reasons for the couple's disappearance. Yet, even the most rational experts could not explain how the clothing remained untouched and neatly positioned in such a remote location for 25 years. Theories spilled over into documentaries, podcasts, and online exposés, each offering its own version of the Morrison mystery. Some postulated a sinister cult operating in the area, while others suggested that government experiments or secret survival tests could be responsible. Every new theory added layers of suspense and fear, blurring the line between fact and speculation. The case, once confined to local legend, became a nationwide enigma, haunting hikers, adventurers, and anyone intrigued by the Rocky Mountains' secrets. The more people speculated, the more elusive the truth became, leaving Ethan and Claire's fate wrapped in shadows, even as the clothing silently testified to their presence. Even after the shocking discovery of Ethan and Claire Morrison's clothing, the couple themselves remained nowhere to be found, leaving the case open and haunting. Authorities scoured the surrounding mountains, checking caves, ravines, and hidden trails, but no trace of the missing couple emerged. It was as if the mountains had swallowed them entirely, leaving only their clothing as a cryptic testament to their presence. Each search effort ended with frustration and fear, and the park itself gained a reputation as a place where nature's beauty could quickly turn into a sinister enigma. The families of Ethan and Claire were plunged back into grief, haunted by the knowledge that their loved one's fate remained unknown after a quarter-century. Claire's parents returned to the trailhead, placing fresh flowers near the spot where the items were found, while Ethan's brother David kept vigil in his journals, documenting every theory, every sighting, and every whisper that reached him. The emotional toll was immense, and the lack of closure weighed heavily on the community. Locals avoided the area at dusk, telling tales of feeling watched or hearing footsteps where none should exist. The mountains had become more than a backdrop. They had become a character in the mystery itself. For hikers and adventurers, the Morrison case became a chilling cautionary tale. Many reported experiencing strange phenomena while passing through the area. Fleeting shadows in the trees, voices carried on the wind, and even glimpses of figures in bright jackets along cliffs and ridges. Some hikers insisted that these were the spirits of Ethan and Claire, eternally wandering the mountains, while skeptics argued it was merely the imagination fueled by decades of legend. Regardless of explanation, the eerie experiences reinforced the sense that the Rockies held secrets far beyond the understanding of those who entered its depths. Investigators, thrill-seekers, and paranormal enthusiasts continued to debate what had really happened. Some pointed to wildlife attacks, treacherous terrain, or accidental falls, while others insisted the disappearance was linked to human involvement or hidden communities in the remote sections of the park. Paranormal theories also persisted, citing the unusual preservation of the clothing and decades of unexplained sightings as evidence. Each theory seemed plausible yet unprovable, leaving the Morrison case in a state of perpetual suspense. The story had transformed into a labyrinth of possibilities, none of which could be fully confirmed. The Rocky Mountains themselves seemed to guard the ultimate truth, allowing only fragments of evidence to surface while keeping the rest hidden. The clothing acted as a haunting reminder that the couple had been there, yet everything else about their fate was shrouded in uncertainty. Visitors to the park continued to feel a mixture of awe and fear, aware that the wilderness could conceal secrets for decades. The Morrison disappearance became a legend, a story passed down among hikers, locals, and mystery enthusiasts, a chilling reminder that some questions about nature and human life may never be answered, no matter how much time passes. As the sun sets behind the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, the forest grows quiet once again, holding its secrets close. Ethan and Claire Morrison's fate remains a mystery, buried somewhere in these rugged trails, hidden from the eyes of the world. Their clothing may have returned, but the couple never did, leaving behind more questions than answers. Perhaps they were swallowed by the unforgiving wilderness, or perhaps something far stranger lies beyond human understanding. Every hiker who wanders these paths feels it, the lingering sense of being watched, the faint whispers on the wind, the shadows that move when no one is there. The mountains seem alive, guarding the truth, daring anyone to uncover what really happened. And so, the Morrison disappearance endures, not just as a story of two lost lives, but as a warning. The wilderness has a memory, and some secrets are never meant to be revealed. The mountains wait, silently, eternally, and sometimes, if you listen closely, you might hear footsteps where no one should be walking.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.